and all of our fun camping stories. So thank you so much to everybody who shared some of your awesome camping stories
Loved
and
them.
hijinks. Awesome. Well, okay, Sue Bauer, are we ready to
All
get started?
right. Absolutely. We are in recording mode, and hopefully you are seeing everyone the PowerPoint home screen. Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Okay. And we're moving. All right, good.
Well, welcome so much, everybody. I wanted to kick off by showing everybody the amazing 360-degree campsite that we have here in ThingLink that was made by our very own Deborah Lucan and Susie Giardani. If you haven't had a chance to go in through this 360-degree campsite, I really highly recommend that you check it out. This is TOPkit this year. This is our home base, and there's all sorts of fun games and adventures and interactivity that you can use not only inside of ThingLink, but also to give a little gamification aspect inside of our new app, Whova. So you might see what's your favorite campsite food that you can interact with inside of Whova, answer some code words, do a little bit of an adventure. And I know that Deborah was extra proud of the sparkly fireflies that are happening there in ThingLink. So we love this so much. And there's all sorts of warm adventures awaiting for you around our campfire for TOPkit 2025. So welcome, welcome. If you haven't checked it out, do check it out. So to kick things off just a little bit, I did promise you a little joke. And if you want to try to share, if you know the answer, you can share it in the chat if you think you know. But quick question, you guys. Why can't you run through a campsite? Got my teacher wait time? You can only ran because it's past tense.
Horrible.
Okay, everybody can leave now.
Michael's applauding.
All right, like we said at the start, it's not only dad jokes, it's also mom jokes. So welcome. Very happy to have you guys here with us at TOPkit Workshop 2025. Bad jokes and all.
All right. Ready for me to
Keep the
next?
bad jokes coming.
Oh, we will. Be ready. So as we navigate on to the next PowerPoint slide, I wanted to share a little bit more about us. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Charlotte Jones Roberts, and I'm the TOPkit Workshop Coordinator, and I'm here with
Good afternoon. I'm Sue Bauer, also TOPkit Program Coordinator working with the workshop. We're so happy to have you today.
so happy to have you today. And like we have been saying, 2025, if you guys can believe it, TOPkit has been around for nearly a decade, if that is even correct. So it's so wonderful to have you guys from the time, some of you have joined us from the time we were face to face. Now that we're fully virtual, it's such a joy to continue this community and this workshop going. Woohoo! So if you haven't done so already, I'm assuming since you're here, you were able to set up camp in Hoover. You see some amazing interactivity happening here. You can look at the leaderboard. This is not the most recent set of points, just so you guys know. So if you're upset about the leaderboard not reflecting your current score, I apologize. This was taken last night. But there's great ways to interact with all the sessions, and I hope that it's easy for you to navigate. However, if we move on to the next slide, I wanted to also put the caveat that you can manage your notification settings inside of the Hoover app by downloading it on your phone first and foremost, and going into your profile picture and hitting settings. So if you're getting a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of notifications you're getting on Hoover, you can adjust them inside of settings. So thank you so much, Sue. I wanted to say a huge, great big thank you to our amazing TOPkit workshop team, like serious round of applause happening here to the amazing Sue Bauer, as I already mentioned, the amazing Bryn Bedford, amazing Susie Giardani, amazing Flo Williams, amazing Joe Lloyd, and amazing Emily Franklin. Genuinely, we could not put on the TOPkit workshop without the hard work of these incredible individuals. So if you see them, thank them. You'll see a few of them as moderators today, and I'm sure you know a few of them as well. Perfect. Another huge thanks to our TOPkit Advisory Board. These are individuals who serve as liaisons between TOPkit and the Greater Florida SUS. And we are always, always, always grateful to have their input in the TOPkit workshop theme and as we have new initiatives come down the pike through TOPkit. Yes, yes. And last but certainly not least, who is on our advisory board, I wanted to introduce for a really quick introduction, Dr. Michael Wright, who is our TOPkit workshop chair for this wonderful 2025 workshop. And I wanted to give him the opportunity to give you guys a welcome. So take it away, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Um, I wrote something down and I put it into ChatGPT and said, "Hey, is this good?" And I realized I wasn't using the paid version, so ChatGPT gave me something that was too encouraging, and so I got away from that and I wrote something a bit better because I think something that we're all looking for during this workshop is kind of a breather and escape from the impending joy and doom of what Gen AI means for us in this kind of learning space and scape. And so I just want to say that welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so honored to be the person who gets to greet you all right now. I'm even more excited about the sessions and the speakers that we have planned for these next couple of days, TOPkit. But before we get started, I want to express my gratitude, our gratitude for our dedicated organizers and volunteers and the partners who tirelessly work to bring this event to life. Their commitment makes sure that we have a platform and a space to share, to learn, to grow together. And I want to give a special thank you to Kevin's team at UCF and especially Sue and Charlotte. If you would join me in either putting an emoji out there or clapping on your screens. They've been working on this for so long, so intentionally, so carefully. I think you're going to see that throughout the day, and I encourage you all to connect with them, as will be kind of the theme of what I'm trying to push here. I also want to say that we're coming together now at a pivotal moment for higher education. A moment where, as I spoke about earlier, technological advancement, especially in the area of generative AI, it has encompassed so much of our thoughts, our feed, our spam, shifting student expectations, evolving societal needs, and let's be honest, a lot of uncertainty and even a bit of fear. So now more than ever, you, like myself, are probably asking yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Why do we do this? Why is this important? Why do we keep at it? And so, to help kind of address that in a way that's been helpful for me, I want to share three numbers with you all. The first number is 54.4. Now, that number, according to research, shifts between 53.5 to 54.4, but that's the number of undergraduate and graduate students who are now enrolled in fully online or some form of digital learning in order to complete their degree. And so, why I think that number is important for all of us is all those things that higher ed has meant to me, that education has meant to you, to your families, to your histories. Now that's represented by you all, by your faculty, by the work that you do, by the things that you touch. The second number is 73%. For those who've been here for at least 5 or 6 years, there was this thing that some of you might remember, the COVID pandemic. Well, that was a moment where we rushed to online learning in so many different spaces, digital instruction, ed tech. And we knew that that wasn't always our best effort, our best work. But even after that, surveys consistently show that over 73% of students, and the number that I was really looking for are faculty, still share interest or a desire to learn online. And nothing is more important or edifying than knowing that the support of our ultimate stakeholders, that's our learners, they want this, they desire this. And there's many reasons why they might, some that we're excited about and some that we're not. But the demand is clear. And the last number are actually not numbers, but words. But I wanted to share with you the top 4 terms associated with teaching online from faculty: time consuming, technically demanding, pedagogically complex, and isolating. And I know you were like, Michael, you were so positive before with the other two numbers. What are you doing right now? And what I want to just say there is that those four terms tell me this, that we still have work to do. Even those of us who've been in the field as long as we've been, or those of us who know how valuable and important this is to our communities, to our country, to the world, to education, we still have work to do. And so that's why we've assembled these speakers and these sessions to focus on ours and your commitment to excellence in online education. Because we know that excellent learning in 2025 requires intentionality, requires careful attention to quality, thoughtful use of data, and honestly, the thing that we all have come to realize is more important than ever: genuine, human-centered approaches to learning. So please, 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 please take advantage of all of these brilliant people in this space that we've assembled together and write down their emails, get their social media handles, and connect, even if it's simply following them on LinkedIn right when you join their session. A really, really great power of this event for all of us is the ability to come together, to work together, and to solve those problems that we know are worth solving. Well, enough of me taking your time away from these excellent sessions. I look forward to seeing you all out there. I have a little bit of a joke. I'm going to say thank you, everyone. I look forward to a great conference. If you need me this week, I'll be pitching ideas. It's what you do to tent. So it's like you pitch a tent, and I'm pitching ideas. It's almost never mind. But see you all around the virtual campfire.
That was pretty good, Michael. Thank you so much for those incredible words, inspiring while also encouraging us to keep moving forward. Thank you so much, Michael.
And they align so well with our mission here at TOPkit, just making sure that we've got a community. It started with Florida and now we're international, where we just want to share all our goodies and our experiences and our resources. And I just love TOPkit Workshop and just TOPkit in general. So thank you so much for cheering us on and opening us with such motivation. I appreciate that, Michael.
I just wanted to give a really brief overview of our session for the rest of the day. Coming up right now, we're running a little bit over time, but it's going to be Dr. Angela Gunder that's coming up, followed by our breakout sessions that are 3 at a time. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll have another set of breakout sessions caused by our wrap up at the very end of the day. So that's our little sneak preview. And without any further ado, I wanted to do an introduction of our amazing keynote, Dr. Angela Gunder. So today's keynote, y'all, you're in for a treat. It's going to be facilitated by an academic innovation leader who may already be familiar to you for her work in online digital learning. Dr. Angela Gunder is the CEO and founder of Open Ed Culture, a collaboratory dedicated to advancing access to education through open collaboration, academic innovation, and community engagement. Angela has guided transformative initiatives for institutions worldwide, earning accolades from UNESCO, MIT, the Hewlett Foundation, and the Online Learning Consortium for her pioneering work in fostering innovation, access, and opportunity in education. Today, though, Angela will lead us through an engaging exploration of how building a culture of openness can transform online design, teaching, and learning, and that is a process of combining our strengths, which can inspire and empower us all. Please join me with a big round of applause for welcoming Dr. Angela Gunder.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. I am delighted to be here. I love the kickoff that began with all of the talk of Girl Scouts. I'm going to actually talk about Girl Scouts as well as a fellow Girl Scout and leader. But I love the camaraderie and the connections that are here within this space that we are going to get to make together. So as I do my screen share, just another shout out to the TOPkit team for bringing me out today to help facilitate this dialogue with you about just the important topic of building and sustaining impactful and inclusive culture that bolsters our work in not only online learning, but just teaching and learning in general. And I also want to thank each of you in advance for your time, for your generosity, and your openness as we dig into some examples of how culture drives us in our work, particularly in our shared values around expanding access to learning, and that learning that drives curiosity, discovery, and engagement. So this is going to be a very brisk hike through the woods. I'm going to try to keep us to time because I know we have a lot of activities that we have to get to. So let's get started. So I love to start by sharing a bit about my identity and my positionality to give context for how I approach my work. So this is me on the left. As Charlotte shared, I lead a company called Open Culture, and we help organizations all over the world with strategy, with professional learning and community engagement around different topics like academic innovation and open ed. I also teach. I teach undergrad and grad students at the College of Infoscience at the University of Arizona. And like many of you, I had a very circuitous journey into my current work. I actually started out as a webmaster for higher ed and did that for 3 different universities for 15 years. And then in the process, like Dorothy entering Oz for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I've always been an instructional designer. So I switched over to instructional design and online learning about 12 years ago, and I've never looked back. And this is a pic of me on the left in the desert in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live. This is also me on the right. I've been a digital and analog artist for just about my whole life, for as long as digital existed. That's how long, but certainly analog for quite some time. And I studied studio art and computer science in college, so I got to program and paint. And it's been really important to my view of what digital learning spaces should look like, and I bring that creative part of me into the work that I do. I document my current art process, and I write about creativity on my my website, Angela Remixes. And this pic of me on the right is also in Phoenix, Arizona, but it's at the pond that's behind my house, where you can kind of see, a little bit blurry, some ducks that were hanging out with me. They thought that I was there to feed them, as opposed to take some pictures at the pond behind the house. So why is this important? The real reason I want to share this, and why I like to share this first, is that our stories are really key to informing our perspectives and our motivations as we collectively think about building a culture, and specifically an open culture. And knowing someone else's story allows us to better communicate with them and even know how to best collaborate and create with them, as well as to connect to the awesome work that they're doing. So today we're going to talk about this culture work through 3 C's, 3 lenses: collaboration, connection, and culture. But before we do that, I would love to learn a little bit more about you. And in true camping theme, we're sitting around the campfire, we're sharing our origin stories. Folks that work in these online spaces typically have circuitous paths to the work that brings them together, and different towering strengths. So like a scout, I'd love to hear about some of the different badges that you proudly wear. So you can just throw those in the chat, and I'm going to open the chat for myself. I'm over in the in screen share mode, so I got to adjust my windows around, but I want to see what you all put up there. But 3 iconoclastic badges that you wear. Okay, I see some already. Art and language, thought partner therapist, mom badge and educator badge, ID and history instructor. There was also a comment from before, which I think is also iconoclastic, of ponds in Arizona. Yes, we do have water in the desert. And especially in like the northern areas, or the parts that are not the low desert, we have quite a bit of water. So a lot of IDs and other things. Ooh, MacGyver and assistant to the class clown. Keep them coming. This is absolutely great. And we're going to wear all of these badges proudly as we go throughout the session, and think about how this connects to the work that we do. So our trail map today, we're going to talk about a lot of things related to mindsets. As a forever instructional designer and a lover of design for digital spaces, I get to lead a lot of trainings and give talks on academic innovation as it's applied. But today it's going to be more about our mindsets that we bring rather than skill sets, which you'll be able to then apply to the sessions that you'll have throughout this TOPkit workshop. We will explore some practices too. I'll share some work from my design work and from my teaching work. But basically, we're going to cover challenges that we have on the path ahead, especially related to culture, but some new opportunities that are sitting at the peak. I'm going to give you a primer on the work of the amazing Stuart Hall and my remix of his work into the 3 C's of culture. And then we're going to apply the 3 C's into an activity. I'll have some resources to go, your trail mix, if you will, and then we're going to part ways, at least for today, but know that I will continue to support you in all the work that you continue to do. So as we traverse this landscape, I have a driving question for you that I want you to ponder and hold on to. And that's, what elements of culture can I foster in my own work to better connect me and those around me, whether they're students, colleagues, they could be faculty, they could be community members external to us, but how can I better connect to the fire of discovery and curiosity that's sparked through engaging learning experiences? And we'll talk a little bit about how this can show up and appear, but I'm also going to give you time to share with your colleagues as well how you're seeing this happen. So my current work for Open Culture has me talking to educators and designers from around the globe who are eager and passionate about reimagining a better future of learning than what we're experiencing now, and sort of thinking ahead of like, okay, these are the towering strengths that we want to keep and hold on to, but here are the things that we want to do anew, and the places that we want to go. And it feels a lot like making connections between the stars. I love to stargaze, and the work that I do and the people that I get to talk to feels like connecting stars to make constellations of our work. That's a utopian look at what I do, but the dystopian side, and I know it's one that's very familiar to all of you, and Michael kind of kicked us off with a little of this too, is that we're seeing everywhere that we have to do way more with less. We're working at a frantic pace with fewer resources, and it really has us very fractured and siloed. It's why I love being in spaces like this one that we're creating together and doing work in this way, because we need to get back to the heart of what brought us into this work in the first place, that passion for that spark of learning and all of the creativity that we get to bring into the online learning spaces that we help to build and support. So I know that many of you are in kind of a similar predicament, and as much as you feel comfortable being generous and vulnerable in the space, I'd be happy to hear some of your thoughts in the chat so that we can work through some solutions together here around the campfire around building culture. So my question for you, and I'll give you a little bit of time to think about this, is what challenges are you currently battling in your work that are causing your campfire to burn out a little bit? I think for me, mine is really trying to separate between what I can do versus where I can actually create space for others to do some things. Sometimes delegation is a little hard for me, and balancing time can be challenging, especially as I just want to help. I want to help as many people as possible, and I know that I'm limited, and sometimes I'm not even on the list of people that I'm caring for and helping. The tech issues of silly communication blackouts. Actually, not even a tech issue, just a human issue. Yep, walking through that uncertainty, that fog that we have in front of us. Heather, oh my gosh, I have never seen a lessening of those microaggressions, and I would even say macroaggressions towards online learning. I feel like we still have to defend what we do, even though what we do has been so incredibly powerful and transformative and even more effective in many ways. Another one about communication. Yep. The ramifications of the pandemic. Yep. Working in this current political climate, raising awareness about AI in education. All places where I know that we're feeling the campfire kind of lessen a little bit, but also for some of us it might, give us an excuse to put another log on the fire and stoke it a bit. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what it means to build the fire up as we see these challenges coming at us from left and right. I've tried to build a clone of myself. I've tried to stretch the day longer than 24 hours. I am sad to say that I have not been successful in that. If any of you have, please share the wealth. But what I have been able to do through my research, through my advocacy work, and through listening and learning from others and openly sharing is that Small mindful changes can really help improve the quality of our work together and our outputs, all for the benefits of our learners. And it really starts with culture. So we're going to talk about how we can situate culture as a way to bring that discovery, that passion, and that wonder back to the classroom. So aligning our work with building culture makes space for academic innovation and for taking risks. It allows us to be curious and chart new territory as we're not going it alone. And it allows us to bring new energy to our work, to walk trails that are probably more treacherous than we've seen before, or even think that we have the ability to walk. And this culture work is actually something that can be mapped to a process and a practice that can be maintained across different course design and facilitation practices. I know that there's a lot of great work happening in this room, a lot of brilliance, and also a lot of passion for what might happen in the future. Some of this is going to come up in the sessions, but I want to do a little share out again. And this time, I want to know what you're excited about trying to work on right now. Maybe it's a new tool or approach that you want to explore. Maybe it's an academic passion project that you want to run or pilot. But tell me a little bit about in the chat what new paths you're most curious to explore related to your work in online learning. Using AI to help me better organize my work and my day. Yep, I've started doing that. I found that like some of the people pleasing that AI doesn't always allow it to be a good accountability coach. I need it to be a little tougher on me, so I have more training to do. Emerging technologies always, Amanda, but also that micro-credentialing piece. How can we honor learning wherever it happens and how it happens? AR, XR, AI, keep it coming. These are all great. And I'm going to weave some of these in for sure, but hopefully this is fodder for you to see other people and what they're thinking about, because we're going to talk about connections in just a bit. So as we talk about building culture, I need to take us back a little bit with the history of cultural studies, which was created by amazing scholar Dr. Stuart Hall. He had a very clear and direct definition of culture, and he said it's the meaning we collectively ascribe to people, objects, and events. And when we think about how we might change up our work, the lens of culture provides us endless opportunities if we consider these three elements. So I've remixed these elements into three easy to remember C's, and they're collaboration, creation, and connection. So collaboration is how do we work with others? Creation is what do we build together, and connection is how do we align what we build to the needs of those around us. And that includes faculty and staff that we work with directly, but also the students that we serve, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. And these three elements are interconnected, and they're constantly evolving based on what we as a community prioritize and give meaning to. So let's spend a little time talking about these three elements. Because I'm a storyteller and I love to share a story around the campfire, I'm going to do it through the lens of a couple of different stories from my work and from my play. And I'd like for us to start with collaboration first. So this story about collaboration actually comes from a profound experience that I had last week, not so long ago. And I was helping to organize an event that some of you may be familiar with called the 100-Year EdTech Project, which was started at ASU and was held last week in San Antonio at UT San Antonio. And we needed a creative activity for our opening reception. As I mentioned before, I'm creative in my work for education, but I don't always connect my artistic practice of painting and art education to my work that I do in online learning and ed tech. And there's a little bit of vulnerability there too, of like mixing work and play. However, for this event, I thought that there was an opportunity to create a shared space for us to take risks, for us to be vulnerable, and do something that would perhaps even combine AI and like old school art to give us something to take with us. And I knew that if I wanted to guide other people in doing this, I had to be vulnerable and be ready to do that myself. So I created a participatory art project where AI actually gave us a series of drawing prompts that were inspired by some artists that I liked. And each person could choose a prompt that they wanted to follow to draw on this large canvas. And I made the canvas from 4x6 individual cards, and I taped them together by hand into a 7-foot by 3-foot space. I painted the base, but I left it up to the group to decide what to do and where. And in the end, we collectively painted a work of art that was all of ours and that we each contributed to. It connected to AI, but it wasn't AI making art for us. It was AI sort of inspiring us to make art for each other. And the biggest finding was that I couldn't have predicted the output. And I actually had to put aside some fears of what the final result would be to trust in the process and trust in the collaboration. Collaboration takes that intentionality and a commitment to both what we leave behind and then also what we take away. And this activity was about bringing discovery, trust, and generosity back into our work together, even improvisation, where sometimes we were drawing with each other and riffing off of each other. It also meant that I trusted that I had people that I could depend on to take risks within the space. And in the end, we actually separated all of the pieces of artwork to give each person a small masterpiece to take away with them. I actually have mine sitting next to me in my office, but it's an artifact and a reminder that when we go in with trust and authenticity, we create beautiful things together, and we have things that we can take away to remind us of that work. I want you to think about that in your own work. Operationally, this can look like building from strengths. You can leverage the strengths of your colleagues, but you can only do them if you know them, not just what they're good at, but what they care about and where they want to go. And that takes authenticity and trust to do that. It also means understanding something that my colleague, Dr. Cynthia Pascal, once told me of there's enough glitter for everyone. And the biggest part of our impact is shining that light. You know, the light of one candle is dim, but if we combine the multitude of flames together, it serves to brighten the way for everyone. Where I see this showing up in our design and teaching work, it really comes from starting small, picking small projects that we want to work with. For me, it's also been buying time with AI to automate the lower level thinking skills that I need to do so that I have more time to do deeper work. So not AI replacing me, but AI supporting me in the things that I need to do as a human. It also means building pro-social ways to share small practices. Some of it is even here, jumping in the chat and talking with your colleagues about what you're doing. But it also means putting a spin on it and talking about where you failed forward or where you learned something that you wish that future Angela had told past Angela before she started. And then the last thing, and this has been so impactful for me in my entire career, is like finding a trail buddy to explore a new path. Could be a passion project that you have, but it also could be finding people that are asking big questions and making space to create something together. My buddy, Dr. Nicole Weber, who's at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, was just chatting to me about how she felt that her master's level ID students didn't understand how much career development and finding a job was storytelling. So we started to do work on creating a GPT in AI to help IDs think about storying their work that would help them not only in their job searches, but for understanding their unique value and perspective. So I'm going to talk about the next C now, which is creation. And we're going to talk a little bit about narrative practices to hinge our creative process and how we can build a culture that draws folks in with stories. For some of you that I've known for quite some time, you've known that I've been doing this work around storytelling for actually over a decade within the instructional design process. And it's still running and going. Just this idea that we can bring discovery back through the unraveling of a story. Teaching and learning experiences, especially online, can be that book that you just can't put down. You have to like go to the next chapter. And I'm going to share this lens with you that actually kicked off when I first started as an ID at the University of Arizona in 2014. So when I first started doing research around this concept of not only storytelling, but really about heroes in teaching and learning, I was working with a lot of faculty who were very open to bringing some excitement back into their classrooms, weren't looking for a transactional experience, but really wanted to create experiences that would kind of push the envelope for what we thought could happen in digital learning environments. And a lot of what I ended up doing was related to information design, which you can see one of my favorite infographics up here on the screen from David McCandless and his awesome site, Information is Beautiful, which you should definitely check out. But it breaks down what I had to do. I had to make things that were meaningful, useful, accurate, and good looking. And I had to leverage a combo of data, of visual imagery, and media to do so. But the secret element wasn't the ingredients. It was actually that story that tied it all together. And it's why we all understand collectively that anyone can make design elements within a class, but not everybody can effectively design instruction. It's that story that what matters to bringing it all home. I ended up taking a closer look back then at the idea of story and specifically the hero's journey, and explore how we might build learning experiences around this structure. So Joseph Campbell, who's was a mythologist, is the creator of the hero's journey. And he actually wrote a book called The Hero of a Thousand Faces and shared that the best stories of our time follow a 3-act structure where a hero goes on a journey. It's called the monomyth, and there have been tons and tons of writings about the monomyth and how even our modern stories, like I think about Star Wars, I even think about like the Marvel universe and how many anti-heroes there are within that space, all still follow that monomyth structure. My colleagues and I then spent some time determining how we might think about this structure and create narrative practices in our instructional design and in our online learning work. And we thought about coursework as a narrative arc. Like I said, that book that you couldn't put down, you know, from module to module, you really wanted to persist and you could see the linkages and the connections. And we actually created a course map template to hinge a story through first a module, but then building up to an entire course. And we found that it was really transformative for the conversations that we had with our faculty, especially around active and experiential learning that we wanted to create for our learners. It was a lot easier to get folks to think about gameful learning principles or using new emerging technology because we had those story elements to combine everything and bring it together. It also allowed us to think about the archetypes that exist in the classroom too, and some of them are listed up here. Sometimes it's intentional. You know, we think about our students as an epic hero and perhaps the teacher as a wise elder. I like to think about myself as a wise elder in the class, but you know, I'm giving knowledge and resources, but I'm not the one to actually walk the path. My students have to accomplish the work. But it also made us think about some of the unintentionally harmful archetypes that exist, like perhaps an assignment that becomes a trickster, or even a threshold guardian that's preventing the hero from moving forward, or even a faculty member as a shapeshifter or horribly a villain within a class. And performing those reflective activities to reframe our learning experiences just around the monomyth and around the archetypes that existed within the monomyth were really helpful for us to be more clear and intentional about what we wanted to see happen in the classroom and how we could make sure that we strengthen that for our learners. So creation in online learning is really about what we build together. And narrative practices and storytelling help us to reimagine the learning process around a structure that is very engaging, that is very supportive, and it also helps people to just have a little bit of fun, which we're all looking for that as we balance quite a few heavy tasks that we need to do. The stories become a way that we build connection. We also create allies on our journey by combining our strengths to operationalize our shared values as generative action. And I even think about teams of faculty building courses together, or even IDs working together. We are like the Avengers. We have to know what each of our strengths are to bring them together and work as allies. We each have our own path that we're walking, but we can certainly support each other on those paths. This also means us thinking beyond what we make in terms of products, but also thinking about what opportunities we create for those around us. As we find new ways to use story to create connection, it might also align us to folks that can help us on our own journey in different ways that perhaps we hadn't seen before, or even make space for other people to go on a journey that perhaps they didn't know that they had the ability to do and certainly didn't have that confidence. All right, we're still moving. We're moving through the woods really fast. I'm going to go through the last C because I want to make sure that we have some time to make some connections together. The last C is connection. And for all of the scouts out there in the room, hopefully this is not super familiar to you because it starts out as kind of a sad story, but it has a good ending. But I want to tell you a story about learning and motivation that hit me when I was young. So I was a Girl Scout all through elementary and middle school. I had a ton of great troop leaders, and I just loved that I felt like I was with like-minded folks who were curious and who loved to learn, and I got to try out a whole lot of new things, and that wonder and discovery was always there. But my last troop leader that I had when I was a senior was sadly very uninvested in being a troop leader. And my friends and I who were in the troop, we had a really discouraging experience. And my mom, who's a retired French teacher, educator her whole life, saw her daughter who loved to learn and who loved to connect, disappointed and ready to quit Scouts. And she mixed it up for me. She ended up getting me the book of instructions to earn badges that usually just the troop leaders get, but sometimes, the girls will get them too. The Scouts will get them too. So she had me get the book and said, pick activities within here of your choosing. And all of the badges were sorted in different themes. And she's like, pick one for each theme. It was amazing. It was birthday cake to do that. She taught me about self-directed learning in absence of having a good guide. But what stayed with me was that she also taught me about the power of giving learners agency and choice. And later on, I ended up being a junior troop leader for my sister, who is 6 years younger than me. She was a Brownie, and then I helped out the troop leader when I was actually in high school. And I brought those learnings to that space too. I really wanted those girls in the troop to feel connected to what they were learning, to each other, and to their troop leaders. And this may sound familiar to you when you're thinking about what we do in teaching and learning, especially the community of inquiry. We're building learning experiences where we want those learners to be connected to the content, to their instructor, and to each other. And that was so important for me later on when I thought about learning experiences, that I had not only been able to see sort of the deficit version of that, but I had been able to celebrate the benefits of being in a pro-positive and pro-social version of that too, including one that I got to facilitate at a pretty young age. Last but not least, and this is the part that I love the most, is that it just gave those girls latitude, space, and encouragement to make connections in an active rather than passive way. And that's one of the most powerful things that, I'm honored that we get to do in our roles in education. So what does this look like more specifically when we build the needs, when we align what we build to the needs of those around us? For our students, it's thinking about building in choices for learning. One of my undergrad classes that I teach is in new media, and I noticed that a lot of my students in the early classes had a lot of struggles with writing. And I know it wasn't a writing class, but I felt like, there was space and room for me to help them build their muscles in those areas. I also had students who were really good at building things. So I wanted to give them choices for, how they might prototype different things, and not just privilege text as an output, but give them the ability to create assignments that were multimodal. And what I noticed was that the uptick in engagement in that class went out the roof. My students felt like they were not only mastering things a little bit at a time, but they had a safe space to gain new skills and grow with an instructor who they believed was their biggest cheerleader and that trusted them to do that work. And yes, Amy, as you say, it carries into their own work. A lot of my learners, they were working full time. They had families. They were trying to gain marketable skills within new media. So giving them choice as to what they worked on and how they produced mastery became a story that they were proud to tell later on, whether it was through their CV or their portfolio or you name it. It's also about those authentic assessments and building experiences that allow students to really share their lives and, just see their course content in a new way that connects to their past, present, and their future. And last, it's just about giving the opportunity to allow our learners to wear their accomplishments like badges of pride. And that, I do that in my class with having a lot of spirit and joy around the showcases that happen, as opposed to it being this final assessment that feels punitive and about points rather than celebrating the learning that had occurred throughout the semester. This is also about our connections to our colleagues too. So sharing our stories with authenticity, finding ways to build empathy, to see strengths within our community that can help to sustain that culture, and to signal for others that it's okay to be open. If I tell my story about a time that I was vulnerable or that things were scary for me, it lets you know that you're not alone and that you might take a risk and a chance to tell those stories too. I also say that it's about pushing back on this notion of culture fit and only surrounding ourselves with people who think or look or act like us. So a lot of this work too is about creating a sense of inclusion and belonging through an infrastructure that is more about culture add, such that culture can evolve and grow over time. We're all contributing. It's that soup that we talked about in the beginning, that everybody brings a can of soup, we dump it in the pot, we all enjoy the soup. Or maybe we're going to think about like sweet things. We're going to make some trail mix, even some candy salad, if you will. We're all going to dump some treats into the collective bowl and know that we're better together. We're better with all of those unique contributions and those additions, like gumbo for my girl Amanda from New Orleans. Yeah, absolutely. We have to give a little bit of ourselves for that larger collective good. So I've been talking a lot. This is way more than I like to ever talk, but it's a campfire story, so I think it's okay. And I want to shift us a bit. I know that all of you have rich perspectives on being architects of culture. You're doing this work already. This is, less of a, hey, let me teach you these things, but more of a call to action for us to do these things together and to think through this lens as we enter into all of the sessions that are a part of this workshop. This last round around the campfire, rather than do it in the chat, we're going to do it on Padlet. And I have a couple of reflection questions that I'd like for you to answer. I just threw the link in the chat. 3 questions that I want you to answer. You can answer any way that you want. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't have to privilege text. You can answer multimodally. But they're all related to how can we drive open culture in our work in online learning. So I'd love to hear one thing that you can do this month. It'd be great if it was even this week, but this month that you could do to improve collaboration on your team. And then I'd love to hear one thing that you can do this month to improve creativity on your team. And last but not least, one thing that you can do this month to improve connections with and for your learners. So if you're new to Padlet, you have the ability to click on the little plus sign under each of the questions that's there up on the Padlet to answer which of the 3 questions that you would like. You can answer them in any order. You can pick one in particular that you like. And if you're not feeling Padlet, that's fine too. You can actually put your answer to this question in the chat as well. And I'm going to do my teacher pause while you all think and write. No bad answers. Just what's calling your name. I also encourage you to steal. If I said something that you're like, ooh, I want to try that, take it. It's yours. I gave it to you as part of the trail mix. Okay. Collaboration. Add successes to repositories tool bag. I love this. Brainstorm with others on some ideas. Yeah, both casually and informally around the water cooler, asynchronously on Slack. It's interesting when you ask people for challenges rather than solutions or even big questions. Conduct a keep, stop, start for project management. Yep. And I wonder how much that could help too with, maybe AI being an accountability coach there. Another one for the collaboration, review upcoming goals and projects. Yep, absolutely. Make my work more transparent. All of these are wonderful little things, small incremental things that we can do. And you notice that none of this has to do with technology. Technology could help us with all of these things. And I'm sure we're going to learn more about some tech that people are using in their context throughout the course of this workshop. But you're talking about mindsets and practices and processes that can be maintained at all times. Ooh, under the creativity column, brainstorming across disciplines. Yep. Thinking about interdisciplinary connections. That's that storytelling piece again. How can we make linkages between different disciplines? That's super important. If you haven't gone to creativity and connections, you can jump in to those too. And let's see, set up outreach with tech for regular check-in and curiosities. Yeah, my buddy Sue Picard at Northern Virginia Community College used to have a petting zoo in the physical space where people could play with tech. But it wasn't really about the tech. It was about, how we were sharing with each other and the questions that we would ask. And also those gotcha moments when we're like, oh, this doesn't work. Like, how do we kind of get around that? That was a really big game changer for us too. I'm going to go back to the creativity one. AI challenges for our colleagues to let them get their hands dirty, experience the tools. Yep. And one thing that they're doing at UT San Antonio that's been really impactful is that when they have those faculty events, they're bringing students there too. And sometimes having the students help to lead and guide those AI challenges. Just sort of leveling the playing field has been really transformative for building a culture that lets everybody know that they're kind of on the same page. Oh, giving time back. What a gift and a pleasure. We talk about caring for our colleagues, thinking with intentionality about how we use time when we schedule time. And then I'll do last one. Okay, the connections use the praise badge to recognize effort and accomplishments. Everybody loves everybody loves a badge. Everybody loves a little accolade and a little joy. I've been to some things where they've been like passing out stickers to certain people, and I'm like, I want a sticker. I'm still trained that way. Don't underestimate how much our colleagues, want and need a little bit of love. So thank you. Keep them coming on this Padlet. This Padlet's going to continue to live too. So if you have a colleague that did not come to this session and you want them to experience the love and the joy here, share. And speaking of sharing, here's my trail mix that I'm going to share with you. A couple of resources to share out. If you want to see more about the art project that I created, it's on my creativity blog, Angela Remixes, and I'm actually going to continue to write a little bit about what it was like to put that together, to bring AI and analog art, and also to bring us together. So I highly encourage you to check that out. You can also explore the resources that were created about storytelling in the online learning process. That's on the Monomyth Online website. And if you want to see all of the upcoming work that me and my team are doing at Open Culture, we have a lot of grant-funded work that means that we can offer you trainings and resources to help educators, to help designers, faculty, even administrators figure out how to better navigate the crazy world of academic innovation. Definitely encourage you to check out the website Open Culture. We're actually launching a free online course this Friday for National AI Literacy Day. I don't know if you know that Friday is the second National AI Literacy Day. And we're going to be sharing findings from our global research for UNESCO on AI literacies, as well as talking to some folks that were part of the research, and then letting people into this brand new open course that's being hosted by D2L on Brightspace. So it'll be a fun sort of splashy occasion that our friends at Reclaim Hosting and Reclaim TV are going to run as part of a live stream. They actually have some really cool 80s music that plays at the beginning of all of their sessions. So if you're not doing anything on Friday, definitely come out and help us celebrate. And then last but not least, you can get all of the slides here that I just went through as well. I have links to all of these things. I'm going to drop them in the chat right now because I always have to do what my mentor, Jerry Hanley, says: give a gift, not a burden. So there are your gifts or for around the campfire. I'm just so delighted to get a little time with all of you, to get to know you all a little bit better. And I just want to say that to close us, that there's no end to the road and the work that we do. And that's actually a beautiful thing, not a scary thing. It's our commitment to a process and a practice that advances those 3 C's that I talked about: our collaboration, our creativity and our connection. And I am so honored to walk this path with you, no matter how treacherous it is. I'm going to do so with curiosity, wonder, and a whole lot of gratitude. So thank you so much for the time today. And I really appreciate being here with all of you.
Wow, just incredible, Angela. Huge round of applause. And I don't know if you would like to open it up for comments, but we do have about 5 minutes left remaining, if that's something that would be okay with you.
Yeah,
Because I know that you had
absolutely.
a very inspiring talk, and we have plenty that we could ask questions about. So we have really until 2 o'clock to ask questions. So if anybody would like to unmute, please feel free.
And also not just questions. If you have thoughts and comments, you can leave them in the chat too. I'm more than happy to hear, but really appreciate all of you and the time today.
Hi, Angela. This is Amy.
Hey,
I'm just
Amy.
dropping things in the thing because they all know me. I throw things in there. Um, since you have a gamer background, I dropped in the chat, but I want to make sure you saw it in there. Did you see that the Flashpoint archive is now launched live? And so all of our old Flashpoint games and things like that. So I dropped it in the chat, and I really wanted you guys to know about this, which is perfect. So all this wonderful work that was done by our colleagues over the last 20 plus years is now, it's similar to Internet Archive, but specific to Flash. So I dropped it in there, and I just wanted to let folks know that it's still there. The games are still playable. We still have the connections across different disciplines, and we're not going to lose it because the tech has evolved.
Amy, you just made my day. I do play games on the Internet Archive still. I go back and I play the Oregon Trail and Carmen Sandiego quite a bit, because actually Carmen Sandiego in particular is still one of the best examples of instructional design within an online or digital learning space. Very little, pre-instruction is needed. You jump into the action and you can get going, and you don't feel weird or stunted about it. But this Flashpoint archive is really, really awesome, and probably reminding many of us about those early days where we were thinking about new media and the moving image and what we could do with that creativity. I feel like we're going to continue to have these remixes and these mashups. So I'm so appreciative.
Well,
of
and
that.
the students are now fascinated by the history of the internet. Chew on
Uh-huh.
that for a minute. Okay, so think about that. We were talking modern history. We were talking about students who are learning the history of the computer. There is an online history computer museum, by the way. But things like this, these students have never existed in a world in which this tech did not dominate or surround their existence. And they are now fascinated. Now I know where that comes from. So just want to share that out there, that we forget how unique that we are in terms of developing the tools, the environment. So we have our own culture of being online designers and instructors and crafting this digital world that is so fundamental to who they are, in how they learn, in ways they can be challenged to then contribute to it themselves. And so just from a historian's point of view, I wanted to put that out there to think about how it is that we do that. And that culture itself we overlook because it's part of our embedded sense of what we know, but they want to know, what was it like before?
The before times.
Exactly.
If you will. Yeah, and it's a good example of a positive story as opposed to those deficit models that a lot of us lead with. I was at a Bill and Melinda Gates convening where a bunch of us were getting together to talk about the work that we were doing, and my buddy Van Davis, who's the executive director of WCET, had us all tell a story in the beginning about it, and an educator that inspired us. And I knew the people around the room enough to be like, I can tell you that story, but I can also tell you the story of the two people that showed up first in my head. And they were the folks that didn't make me feel good about myself, about teaching and learning, or, didn't make it about the content, and how I chose to get into education to make sure that no other learner had that experience again. I think both are important, but what you're bringing up, Amy, about bringing that sense of joy back to the classroom, whether it's our creative work, remixing things, or even remembering what got us to this place now, is so important to what we do, and why we'll never be replaced by AI, because those are the gifts that we can only uniquely give as humans. A lot of love, a lot of friends in the audience.
Okay,
Much
since you like
fantastic.
Oregon Trail, I did drop in there. They now have the Oregon Trail, but contextualized with the real history of Oregon. And I dropped it in the chat for you. So go play.
Amy with the gifts. I appreciate it. All right. Well, I think we're about at time. Keep in touch. You have my info. I want to hear what other campfire stories develop from this, or popcorn that's gonna spin off from this. But just know that I'm out here cheering you all on. Yeah, don't get dysentery. Yeah. I should have worn that t-shirt today. I was joking on LinkedIn that I was going to wear my camp counselor t-shirt from an OLC Innovate conference from 2018, but I should have worn my Oregon Trail You Have Died of Dysentery t-shirt. So that was a miss. I might post something on I know there's a photo contest, so maybe I will contribute that to the photo contest.
Please do.
Please do.
Thanks, y'all. Big heart
Thank you
hand.
so much.